I'm Dr. Kristen Treen and I'm a lecturer in English here at the University of St Andrews. St Andrews is one of the first universities in the world to teach English, and today the School of English enjoys an international reputation as a centre for academic research, literary creativity and world-class teaching. Our lecturing staff includes researchers and writers whose work takes in a vast array of topics and interests. From older Scots literature, Renaissance romance and romantic women writers, to Victorian poetry, post-colonial theory and detective fiction. The School of English is home to award-winning poets, playwrights and novelists, practitioners who teach creative writing across the board. The English degree at St Andrews is as diverse as it is rigorous. During their first 2 years, our undergraduates study a very broad set of authors and time periods. Our 4 sub-honours modules are designed to give students an excellent working knowledge of English literature before they go on to specialise at honours level. Students can expect to cover texts from the medieval and early modern periods and the long 18th century, right the way through to modern and contemporary fiction, poetry and drama.
In the first year when we were doing EM 1003, sort of the first broad module that we did, I think that was Culture and Conflict, 19th and 20th century literature. That was, I think, initially just aiming to give us the knowledge of close reading and as many different authors and genres as we possibly could in the space of 12 weeks. And it was definitely beneficial to do such a sort of a broad grounding, because I think a lot of the texts I just never would have gone there myself, like Lonely Londoners, never would have read that. But
I absolutely loved it. I think that was probably my favourite book.
That's one of my favourite books now. Yeah. It's amazing. I reread it.
When I first read the list of texts we were going to be studying, and there were barely any that I knew. And I was just looking at waiting for the Wuthering Heights week, like this week I'm going to know what I'm doing. And actually I wasn't, that wasn't my favourite text to study. Mm. So it was, it was really nice to kind of get out your comfort zone a bit, because I'm definitely a bit of a creature of habit, really. It's just Austen and Hardy, really. So.
But I felt like that with Jekyll and Hyde, because I studied that a few times before. I was like, I'm so ready for this. And then, when we went into the lecture that took it from a completely different perspective from what we'd been taught, it did it from a sexuality perspective that you don't get in secondary school. It really challenged my views. It was really good.
So in second semester we studied explorers and revolutionaries from 1680 to 1830. And I found that really interesting because there were quite a few texts that otherwise, again, that you were saying, I wouldn't really have come across or read.
During the first 2 years of the English degree, our students will also experience a whole range of teaching methods and complete several different forms of assessment. While our small group tutorials and close reading exercises give students the opportunity to find their voices and really hone their critical skills, lectures and set essay tasks introduce them to the big picture and encourage them to ask big questions.
Tutorials, it's a very intimate group of people of about 5 or 6, and in these groups you can take what you learn in lectures and discuss it, and it almost becomes like a group of friends because you're all really interested in it, and you can all have a really in-depth discussion and have a chance to share ideas.
Yeah, no, I definitely felt after the first couple of sessions and you get to know everyone, it's a really nice environment to kind of just share your ideas. And I was quite self-conscious at first for what people would think of what I have to say and stuff, but yeah, it's really nice having a small group.
We only do 2 coursework essays, so and in the EM 1004 module we did a close reading and a more kind of analytical essay. But in terms of essays, what they're really looking for is no flowery language, like to use your words efficiently, because you don't get too many words. So basically to kind of really pinpoint the argument, refer to like the novel or the context of what you're studying, but really to pinpoint the question and sort of use your words wisely.
What I actually really liked is the way that the coursework essays and the exam actually went hand in hand in that. So we had, as you said, a close reading and then one on the whole text, and how that was also the structure for the exam as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And lectures were really good because the great thing about the English school is it puts novels much more in a historical context. Yeah. And you feel like you're studying history. So I, for the first time, became acquainted with the idea of the novel as a historical source rather than just a piece of fiction. Yeah. So it's like all literature is kind of essentially a reaction to society or humanity. So you're kind of really getting a a specific perspective of society at a certain time, and that's really fascinating.
Yeah, exactly. I think the thing that I really like about the English department is it has a really nice community, and I genuinely really like the atmosphere itself, and I've always felt very comfortable in lectures and in tutorials.
And it feels like the students and the staff are very much on the same page.
Yeah, exactly.
They all get along really well.
It makes you very inspired to learn when you just like really enjoy not only like what you're studying and the course itself, but just the general environment and the teaching staff and things like that.
Absolutely.
By the time they reach honours in their 3rd and 4th years, our students are ready to specialise. Whether they choose to take English as a single or joint honours degree, they have a huge variety of modules to choose from. And among them, they'll find offerings in Old and Middle English, Celtic, American and world literatures, creative writing and the Victorian novel.
In terms of sort of the format, the big difference I think once you get to honours is you're in much smaller classes. The modules get a lot more specific than in 1st and 2nd year, and you get a lot more choice in what you're doing, whereas in 1st and 2nd year everyone's doing the same things. 3rd and 4th year you get to choose from, I think it's like 40 different modules.
Yeah, you can go from Old English, like the very beginnings of the English language, until the 21st century experimental poetry.
Yes, what's so useful about honours is your tutor is an expert in that area, so they're able to point you in the direction of all this useful secondary material that they have
studied it really extensively. Yeah,
they know inside out.
Yeah. So as well as doing single honours, you can do joint honours, which I do. So I do English alongside history, and I found that really great because they weave so seamlessly into each other.
So you can bring knowledge.
Yeah, you can bring a lot of, especially because those subjects are so closely intertwined. You study the period so extensively in English. You can bring a lot of knowledge from history into your English modules and vice versa.
Of course, there's no single way of studying English at St Andrews. We offer many different routes into higher study. All of our students, whether they take the full-time, part-time or evening degree, enter into their studies as members of the school's supportive and intellectually stimulating community.
St Andrews is one of the few universities in Scotland that has such a wide range of ways of coming into study through its flexible learning programme, and which is how I chose to come in as an evening degree student, which gave me the opportunity to work full-time, but also study in the evening towards a degree. To do some of the other subjects, perhaps you have to think in terms of the Flexible Learning's part-time degree offering, which is again another way that allows people to balance their studies with their other commitments in life, whether it's work or family. We never fail to be delighted about the lectures in particular. The numbers are much smaller in the evening degree course, which meant that you had this unprecedented opportunity really to be sitting in quite often in quite a small room in a quite small number with these experts in their field of knowledge about subjects, and almost have a conversation. It was a lecture, but it was very much a conversation, and quite often afterwards the lecture would finish and the conversation would continue afterwards, which I don't think there's many students can have that privilege to do, and we did really think of it as a privilege.
Here at St Andrews, we're also extremely fortunate to have access to a whole host of rare books and manuscripts, a huge archive which is growing all the time. And our collections don't just generate new research, many tutors and lecturers use them for teaching too. So during their time here, our undergraduates may well encounter some of the most remarkable texts in literary history. Drawing on our resources here in St Andrews and further afield, we pride ourselves on our unique approach to research-led teaching.
From pretty much day one, our students are taught by some of the world's leading experts in that area or in that period. It also means they're exposed to a wide variety of different topics. We have colleagues who are researching theatrical performance in Scotland. We have colleagues who are researching mermaids, for example. And all of these variety of topics make their way into the teaching syllabus. We believe in research-led teaching. For most of our colleagues, our teaching and research is very closely aligned together. As a result, students in the School of English are not just students in an academic department, they are members of an academic community. You will be part of a wider project which we all share in and which we are all passionate about, and that is trying to understand the relationship between literature and the world.
There's a great sense of community, I think. Yeah, that was something that I was worried about as well, because before I decided to come here, I was thinking of going to a small liberal arts college in the United States. And this is definitely bigger than a lot of them. A lot of them would be like 1,600 students. And I was worried that there wouldn't really be that same sense of community, but I've definitely found it here.
Also, it's cozy. I think
it is.
I think you'd be surprised about the amount of things you can do here, because I definitely was a little taken aback by, not even university related, but it really becomes a home away from home.
It really does. I think it's I consider this my home.
Yeah. So, you know, we're studying English and we look out of the window and here is the sea.
Yeah,
and
it's
just,
lovely.
You just don't get that in many places, do you? I mean, we walk out of this building and then we've got a castle and then a beach.
It's quite nice.
It's fantastic.
And that's
thematic, to be honest.
That's another reason that St Andrews appealed to me, to be honest. Other than the sense of community and the sense that everyone kind of knows you. You don't feel lost in the same way that I felt lost on open days for other universities.
Oh yeah.
But it's also the sense of magic that I think that St Andrews brings.
Yeah.
One of the really unique things about St Andrews that not many universities have is being able to study subjects like English and history in like historic buildings, and like all the humanities departments very much occupy old buildings, and it very much feels like you're kind of where it's at and at the centre of where the stuff was happening at the time.
Yeah, St Andrews, it just has this really nice feel to it, and it's really friendly and it's really welcoming. And I remember thinking, like, once I'd like come like 2 days in, I was like, I can see myself living here.
To find out more, please visit the School of English website.